You were taught that all debt is bad. Pay it off, avoid it, fear it, cut up the cards. And for the kind of debt most people have, that advice is actually correct. But here is the part nobody explained to you. While you were being told to fear all debt, the wealthiest people on earth were quietly using debt on purpose, as their single favorite tool to get richer. They borrow millions, deliberately, and it makes them wealthier, not poorer. So either they are all reckless idiots gambling with the bank's money, or there is a rule about debt that you were simply never taught. Spoiler, it is the second one. There are actually two completely different kinds of debt, and they behave like opposite forces. One quietly makes you poorer every single month. The other can quietly make you rich. And almost nobody teaches you how to tell them apart. So stick around, because near the end I will show you exactly how the rich use borrowed money to buy assets they could never afford in cash, and how to know if a debt is working for you or eating you alive. Let us decode it. First, let us be fair, because the fear of debt did not come from nowhere. Most people's only experience with debt is the kind that genuinely hurts. Credit cards at 20+% interest. Car loans on a car that loses value the second you drive it off the lot. Buy now, pay later on things you did not need. That debt is a trap, full stop, and running from it is smart. So the popular advice became simple. All debt is bad, avoid it all. It is easy to remember, and it keeps beginners out of trouble. But simple is not the same as complete. By lumping every kind of debt into one scary pile, that advice accidentally hid the most powerful wealth-building tool the rich have ever used. It is like telling someone all fire is dangerous. True enough to keep a child safe, but a chef, an engineer, a blacksmith, they all know that controlled fire is how you build things. Debt is the same. In careless hands it burns your house down. In skilled hands, it is leverage. And leverage is how small money moves big things. So here is the rule that separates the two, and it is beautifully simple once you see it. Ask one question about any debt. Does this debt put money into my pocket, or does it take money out? That is the whole test. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket. You borrow to buy something that loses value or just sits there costing you, like a depreciating car, a vacation, or clothes on a credit card. You get a bill every month and nothing comes back. Good debt does the opposite. You borrow to buy something that puts money into your pocket, an asset that earns, that pays you, that grows in value faster than the debt costs you. The debt is still there, but the thing you bought with it is paying the bill for you, and then some. Same tool, borrowed money, but pointed in two opposite directions. One is a leak in your boat. The other is an engine. The rich are not addicted to debt. They are addicted to good debt, the kind that hires itself out and comes home with more money than it left with. Now let us talk about the real magic word the rich use, and it is not debt, it is leverage. Leverage just means using a small amount of your own money to control a much larger asset, with borrowed money filling the gap. Picture a physical lever. With a long enough lever, a child can lift a boulder they could never move with their bare hands. Money works exactly the same way. Say you have $50,000. You could buy $50,000 of something in cash. Or, using good debt, you could control a $250,000 asset, putting in your 50 and borrowing the rest. Now here is the key. If that larger asset earns a return, you are earning that return on the whole 250,000, not just your 50. Your money is doing the work of 5 times its size. That is leverage. It multiplies your results, up and, this is important, also down. Which is exactly why leverage is a power tool, not a toy, and why understanding it is the difference between it building your wealth or crushing you. The clearest example of good debt in action is real estate, which is exactly why the wealthy love it so much. Watch how the pieces fit together. You buy a rental property, but you do not pay all cash. You put down a fraction, say 20%, and the bank lends you the other 80%. So with a small slice of your own money, you now control an entire, valuable property. Then the magic. A tenant moves in and pays rent. That rent covers the loan payment, the taxes, the upkeep, and ideally leaves a little extra in your pocket every month. So think about what just happened. You borrowed a large sum, but you are not the one paying it back. Your tenant is paying off your debt for you, month after month, while the property itself, historically, tends to rise in value. Someone else is buying you an asset. That is good debt in its purest form. The borrowed money bought a thing that pays for itself and hands you the profit. Now, it is not risk-free, empty months and repairs are real, but you can see why the rich treat this kind of debt as a gift, not a curse. Real estate is just the most famous example, but the same logic runs through everything the wealthy do. Take business. A smart owner borrows money not to spend it, but to build an engine that makes more than the loan costs. Say a loan lets a company buy a machine, or hire a team, or open a second location that generates far more profit than the interest on the debt. The borrowed money went in, and a bigger stream of money came out. That is good debt again. Borrow at one cost, earn at a higher return, and keep the difference. This is the exact principle behind almost every large company you can name. They borrow deliberately, at low interest, to grow faster than they ever could using only their own cash. They are not doing it because they are broke. They are doing it because waiting to save up the full amount would mean moving at a snail's pace while competitors who understand leverage race ahead. The rule stays the same no matter the size. If the borrowed money buys something that earns more than the debt costs, the debt is working for you. Here is a move the ultra-wealthy use that sounds almost illegal when you first hear it, but is completely normal at the top. Instead of selling their investments when they need cash, they borrow against them. Think about why that is genius. If you own stocks or property that are growing, and you sell them to get cash, two bad things happen. You stop that money from growing, and you often owe taxes on the sale. So instead, the wealthy go to a bank and say, "I own these valuable assets, lend me money using them as backup." They get cash to spend or reinvest, their assets stay invested and keep compounding, and a loan, unlike income, is generally not taxed the same way. So they access their wealth without ever killing the golden goose. This is part of how you hear that certain billionaires pay shockingly little in tax while living lavishly. They are not stealing. They are borrowing against assets that keep growing, using rules that are sitting right there in the open, rules you were simply never taught to look for. Now I have to be brutally honest with you, because this channel does not sell fantasies. Leverage is a double-edged sword, and the same force that multiplies your gains will multiply your losses just as fast. Remember our example, controlling $250,000 with $50,000 of your own. If that asset rises, you win big on money that was mostly borrowed. But if it falls, your losses come out of your small slice first, and you can lose your entire $50,000 while still owing the bank every penny you borrowed. This is exactly how people get wiped out in crashes. They used too much leverage, the asset dipped, and the debt did not care. So good debt has rules. The asset should genuinely produce income or grow. The numbers have to work even if things get tight, not just in the best case. And you never borrow so much that one bad month ends you. Used with respect and margin for error, leverage builds empires. Used with greed and no cushion, it is the fastest way to lose everything. The tool is neutral. The discipline is everything. So what does this mean for you, realistically, if you are not rich yet? Let me be practical, because this is not a green light to run out and borrow recklessly. Step 1 is not glamorous. Kill your bad debt first. That credit card at 20% is the opposite of leverage, it is leverage working against you, multiplying the bank's wealth at your expense. Nothing you invest in will reliably beat 20%, so paying that off is your best guaranteed return on earth. Step 2, once the bad debt is gone, start learning how good debt actually works before you ever use it. Understand the asset, the numbers, and the worst case, deeply, before borrowing a cent. Step 3, when you do use it, start small and conservative, with a real cushion, so a mistake is a lesson and not a catastrophe. The goal is not to fear debt like a child, and not to worship it like a gambler. It is to graduate into the small group of people who understand the difference, and can finally use the tool that was quietly building everyone else's wealth. Underneath all the mechanics, there is a mindset shift here that matters more than any single tactic. The poor and much of the middle class are taught to see debt as a moral failing, something shameful to hide and pay off in fear. The wealthy are taught to see debt as a tool, something neutral, to be aimed carefully at things that produce more than they cost. Same word, completely different relationship. And that shift changes how you see money entirely. You stop asking, how do I avoid all debt, and start asking the far richer question, does this borrowed money buy something that will pay me back and then some? You stop treating every dollar of credit as danger, and start treating it as potential energy that can be pointed in a good direction or a bad one. This is not about being reckless. It is about graduating from a rule made for beginners to the fuller truth the wealthy have always operated on. Money is a tool. Debt is a tool. And tools do not have morals. Only the hands using them do. So let us bring it home. You were handed a rule made for beginners. All debt is bad. And for high-interest consumer debt, that rule is protecting you, so keep running from that. But now you know the fuller truth. There are two kinds of debt, and they are opposites. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket every month and quietly makes you poorer. Good debt buys an asset that pays for itself and makes you richer, that is leverage, and it is how the wealthy control big things with small money. Just never forget the sword cuts both ways, so it demands respect, real numbers, and a cushion. Kill the bad debt first, learn deeply before you use the good kind, and start small. Do that, and you stop being afraid of a tool that was building everyone else's wealth while you were told to hide from it. If this changed how you see debt, subscribe to Money Decoded USA, where we break down real money, with no hype. Now go look at your debts and ask the one question. In, or out?